and welcome to Thrift Shop Biography. This is the one about Melanie C. Thank you for listening. Hello.
Hi.
So I was really pleased this week to find in the thrift shop already the autobiography of Spice Girl Melanie C, i.e. Sporty Spice.
I'm very pleased you found it.
Yeah, because it's relatively new.
Yeah, it's the youngest person we've done so far, actually.
The youngest person we've done so far,
Yeah.
It is.
It feels very fresh.
Yeah, I loved it.
I loved it.
Do you like Spice Girls anyway?
Love the Spice Girls, but I would never have chosen Sporty Spice as my way in. I'd have probably gone Mel B. But we don't choose. We take what we get.
There. I'm sorry, I did not find Mel B in the thrift shop.
Yeah, I mean, given a choice, she's not my favourite Spice. What is she now? I finished the book. She might be my favourite Spice.
Melanie C. Sporty Spice might be your favourite Spice.
Well, only because I now know her better than I know all the others.
You need to read 4 other books.
That's right, you see, because you get one over by it, and I'm really fond of her now after reading this book.
I think Melanie C. seems like a lovely, lovely person. I didn't consider that she might be horrible anyway.
I never thought she'd be horrible, but I just was I'm not sporty, so I know she loves football. I don't know. I don't know, but now I get it.
So you were a fan of the Spice Girls?
Yeah, I love them.
Did you back in the day?
Yes, I did, even though I was technically too old, I must admit.
Nobody is too old for the Spice Girls.
No, but it was aimed at kids, but I am exactly the same age as Sporty Spice.
Are you really?
Yes. And it's actually blown my mind to read a biography of somebody who's exactly my age and read their enormous full life. They're not too young to have written an autobiography. Oh my God.
You have an enormous full life.
Yeah, absolutely. But I hadn't really acknowledged that I might be at the age where I could write an autobiography,
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, how about you and the Spice Girls?
Yeah, do you know what? I worked in our price when they were launched, and I thought, oh God, this is crap. I was really like, what the hell are they doing? This song is terrible. What are the record company thinking of? I thought it was going to be a very quick novelty song. Sorry, I'm talking about Wannabe here.
Right.
But tell you what I really, really want, their first single. I remember the first time we were sent that pre-release CD.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, there's a buzz about this band. I'll put it on. I was like, what? I just thought it was crap.
Wow.
I was very quickly won over.
Yes. Good.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just exploded into the next pop phenomenon.
And it's what everyone needed. I really feel like it was drudgery. Well, there was a lot of really serious boys strumming guitars and they practiced in the garage and it was all going on. And then this blast of colour and energy and fun came out of nowhere.
I think you're right. I think 1995, the year before they launched proper, it was very public school boys playing guitars in bands. The 80s was brilliant. We had so many pop personalities.
It was really fun and colourful.
And then all of a sudden, kind of almost overnight, when it turned into 1990, we started getting all of these faceless dance tracks. And lots of people stood behind synthesizers, would just have dancers on top of the pops. Guitar bands started coming through. And all the big balladeers like Celine Dion and stuff. Pop wasn't very exciting. And so I think the first half of the 90s, pop was quite boring, and then the Spice Girls came and changed everything.
Yeah, they really did.
They made pop fun again, even though they were kind of manufactured. No, that's a bit unfair.
That's a myth that's been blown away in this book.
Well,
they were put together, but they created themselves.
Yes, I think the intention was to form a manufactured pop group, but the 5 women they brought together kind of...
They were a force.
They wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah, they thought they could just mould these dim-witted dummies, and they weren't those people.
They created a monster.
They created a monster. A spice monster. Let's start at the beginning.
Little Melanie Chisholm.
Correct.
Has quite a modest upbringing.
Yeah.
Mum and Dad. Mum's a singer, actually, which I didn't know.
I didn't know that. And, kind of successful in a way that she actually made a living out of it.
She made a living from singing, doing the working men's clubs and stuff. So she was in a different city every weekend. But it also looked like that she was singing in bands which were almost on the cusp of success at a couple of points. And I think she maybe appeared on TV a couple of times. Yeah. Anyway, she got pregnant with Mel, and that's kind of what stopped her doing it.
It did and it didn't.
And then she had Mel, and then she started doing it again. But that was interesting to me. Again, that's that whole nepotism thing. Okay, Mel C's mum is not going to open any doors in the music industry for her, but it's just the fact, as a young girl, she saw her mum making a living from music and singing on TV. That's massively
and so
helpful.
It's it's something you can do.
It's a possibility.
Definitely. And her mum really encouraged her with dancing, mind you, right? So she loved dancing. It was a dancer she thought she wanted to be. And then parents got divorced when she was 6.
Yeah.
Which shattered her life because she loved her dad and she wanted them to live together. But then they also really struggled for money around that time. So her dance classes stopped. It was years that she didn't have them, and they moved to an estate.
Her and her mum went to live with her granny for a bit.
Yep.
Then they got a council flat, went out, and not long after that, her mum brought this other bloke home.
Yeah, he was in the band with her.
Yeah. And then before she knew it, he was moved his suitcase in and stuff, which is horrible for a little girl.
It's really rough, especially when her life's dream was to get her parents back together. Yeah. And they always believe it, the kids, don't they? They think they can do it. So who is this bloke? It took her years to accept him.
Of course, yeah.
Forever.
It's really difficult as a kid if you get another adult foist upon you in your own house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great, I have to say.
No, it's not great. And it was, like she says, it was kind of the end of her childhood. It completely changed her. She then saw her dad at weekends and holidays, had a great time. But then after a while, he got a job abroad.
Yeah.
He sold the house they grew up in and decided it was time to change his life and got a job in France and Spain in holiday camps. So she said she had the best summers because she could be in a holiday camp. And they obviously had a great time, but her dad wasn't there at weekends anymore,
Yeah.
So, and then this other bloke, because he's in the band with her mum, they're doing all right. They got a job in Rhyl, which is a seaside town in Wales, which isn't that far from Liverpool, but it's far enough that it's a bit of a commute. So a lot of the time she was left completely alone. So they got her a babysitter, live-in nanny who was just a 17-year-old girl who was not up for the job at all. Brought a boyfriend in.
Yeah.
She didn't tell us all the details. It's probably a lot worse than she even wrote, I'm imagining.
And knowing how Melanie C evolved with mental
I think it was
that she
probably
developed,
thoroughly traumatic.
started right there.
Really traumatic.
But I really
you're abandoned, you're alone. Sometimes that babysitter wasn't even there when she got home, so she couldn't even get into her own house. And abandonment.
Yeah, I really felt for that little girl, actually.
Yeah, a lot of damage done.
Yeah, she wasn't looked after.
No.
Do you know what she says? Because obviously she's a mother now, and she doesn't demonise her mum in any way. She just says, I realise how difficult it is being a musician, a singer, and having children.
Yeah, and her mum had no idea that everything wasn't okay because she never told her. She never told anyone.
Oh, the thing that I really love about Melanie C is what a people pleaser she is.
Yeah.
She says, I just want to be a good girl. It kind of works to her detriment as they become the Spice Girls. She just won't speak up for herself.
It's massively to her detriment. It's a shame because she showed signs of breaking out because when she's at school, she's getting bullied and she actually punched back and then realised she needed to be physically fit. She got stronger and stronger so she could fight. She learned to stick up for herself. Eventually, she completely lost that and went to being subjugated by the Spice Girls and wasn't standing up for the bullies and lost that spark she had in herself.
Oh, God, do you know what? You're just making me remember now.
Do you know what? This isn't a traumatic read at all. She doesn't go on and on about that. She just tells it like it is straight. So you don't feel traumatised reading it, but now I'm talking to you, I realise how pretty awful a lot of stuff was.
I'm just remembering it now, and honestly, I love this woman.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for everything she went through, actually.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of these books we read, there's some really horrific abuse and stuff. That's not quite going on here.
Not
but it's just she's just a good girl with a positive outlook, and she keeps getting pushed back down.
And yet, a lot of great stuff happens to her, and she does talk about that absolutely alongside the bad. She's like, and yet I'm a Spice Girl, and this is amazing. Yeah. She knows it too. It's a total both things running alongside each other. But
she was just, like her childhood, she was just alone a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she got a little brother, our Paul. She always calls him our Paul. She never doesn't. Our Paul came along, and she's like, he was never a half brother. He was always my full brother. She felt really maternal towards him right from the start. I think was she about 6 or 7 when he came along then?
Yeah, 6.
So a bit older. Well,
I love their relationship actually.
It's so nice. It's her best friend. It's her best friend in the world. When she first became a Spice Girl, he got really bullied at school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a damn shame. Oh, Talking about our Paul, this is a great fact. When her mum had her, the midwife was brought into the world by Paul McCartney's mum. So it's almost like Paul McCartney's her granddad. But it's like Liverpool, such an amazing Liverpool connection.
Scouse connections.
Somebody's always one step away from Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
And by the way, then she meets Paul McCartney years later, and she's like saying that it's the ultimate thing to do if you're from Liverpool. It's just so unbelievably amazing to meet Paul McCartney. But she was with the Spice Girls then. She had to go, sorry, Paul, I've got to go. She's like, how cool is that? I'm too busy for Paul.
She then goes on to performing arts college.
Yeah, because eventually her mum starts earning a bit more money, and the first thing she says is, do you want to go back to dance class? Boom, she's back in there. And she immediately finds the thing that can pull her out of her dark place. As soon as she's back at dance school, she's like, this is the place, this is what I need. Mm-hmm. And she gets obsessed with it. She's there all the time. It's 100% everything to her.
I remember watching TFI Friday back in the day when the Spice Girls were on. And Chris Evans, the presenter, unearthed this clip of Melanie C at dance school.
Wow.
And it's when the class are being shown how to do something. And there's about 20 young girls all sat cross-legged on the floor or watching this teacher. And little Melanie C is there going over and over the movements as she sat down. Wow. And you watch, you think, that girl is so focused, she's so disciplined, she's gonna succeed. Yeah. If you were watching that class of 20 young dancers, you'd see the one who was going to be massively successful. Obsessive. Yeah. Unfortunately, her obsessive nature works against her, as we'll find out later.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, it's part of her downfall. But then you can see why she was obsessive, because she had something she needed to escape from. Yeah. She hadn't dealt with. A real misery. Also,
dancers, like the discipline of a dancer is more than a singer or an actor, I think, because you have to be so physically in tune. Yeah. Madonna is the same as Melanie C. She started off as a dance student, and that's what brought her to New York, and she was that disciplined and obsessive about dance. Yes. I think it's no small comparison that both of them became massively successful, because I think the discipline you need as a dancer and the drive to get up every day and put your body through that day after day.
Yeah, true. And interesting that Madonna kind of singled Mel C out to come and have dinner with her.
Yeah, she did.
On her own, to try and make friends with her. She maybe saw herself a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's come to performing arts school. She moves to London.
Yeah, Sidcup. Down in Kent. It's a lovely town. It's a really nice, quiet, leafy place. The train goes straight into London, so I got a really good idea of her journey. And you can easily get into London and get back out to a really nice place to live. Yeah, it would have been really good coming from Liverpool to go to that area.
So she does her studies in dance and performing arts, and then she's out going to auditions and checking the ads for jobs. And it's when she's at an audition for a job on a cruise ship, she notices some photocopied adverts on a table, and she looks at one, and one of them is now the infamous Spice Girl adverts. Yeah. Well, I forget what it says, but it's like, can you sing and dance? Do you have attitude? We're looking for some girls between the age of this and that. So she went to the Spice Girls audition.
And what's good about it, really cool about it, is that she saw that and she went, that's my destiny.
Yes.
She 100%, without any doubt whatsoever, that's for me. I will get that job.
Yeah. I wondered whether you kind of think that about every job.
I don't know, because she can sing, she can dance, and she's got the attitude, and she wanted to be in a band. So she did actually want that.
Yeah.
I think you'd go towards musical theatre because that's what a whole school like that is geared towards. They're not geared to train you up to be in a pop band, but that's actually what she wanted.
So she went. Oh, she got ill. She went to the first round of auditions.
Yeah, got through.
Because she only had musical theatre songs, sheet music. But it was a pop band, so she phoned her mum, and her mum sent her the sheet music to I'm So Excited by the Pointer Sisters. Yeah. And that's what she sang at the audition. That clip is on YouTube.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've seen Spice Girls documentaries where they show all their auditions, actually.
Yeah. And then she got through to the next round, but then she came down with like bronchitis or tonsillitis or something.
Could not even speak. There's no way.
So she couldn't go back to her second audition. And her mum phoned up and says to them, she wants this so desperately, but she's just too ill to sing. And they said, oh, okay, well, it's too bad then, because we've got all these other girls. So she lost her place in the Spice Girls before they were even the Spice Girls. But then, by a weird twist of fate, didn't one of the girls drop out, so they called her back in again?
Yes. Or were they pushed out?
There were a couple.
There was a couple who came and went. I think they might have been dropped because when she really had a breakdown about her confidence, she was like, well, 3 Spice Girls have already been knocked out, so I could be next. Yeah. So I think they were probably dropped. They probably put them together and realised the dynamic wasn't working. Actually, now let's get that one back in.
Yeah, so she got called back in. And Jerry, actually, interestingly, wasn't even in the first couple of auditions. Yeah. She just phoned up and blagged her way into the band.
She's not taking no for an answer,
That's
woman.
Jerry.
Yeah.
She kept saying Jerry was like she was on borrowed time. It's like because she was like 25 years older than all the others.
Yeah, she's 2 years older, must have seemed ancient.
Yeah, right.
Did she lie about her age? I think she did.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So Melanie gets into the Spice Girls.
And Emma wasn't in them, was it? There was some Michelle.
Yeah. So it's Mel B, Mel C, Jerry, Victoria, and a girl called Michelle. And that's the nucleus of the band. They get put in a house together where they're going to rehearse and write songs and stuff. And Michelle's quite not cutting it. While the others are working, she's out in the garden sunbathing.
She's sunbathing all the time. And didn't they say she had a place at university as a backup plan? They're like, sorry, but if you've got a backup plan, you don't believe.
Yeah. They all went home for a summer holiday or something, and then Michelle didn't come back. I think it was Michelle's decision. I don't feel like there was a massive falling out and they said, fuck off.
But I have to say, though, if you were there in the middle of it, they were like 2 years rehearsing before anything kicked off. That's a long time, and I think it's amazing they all kept the faith for so long.
And you never know, if Michelle had stayed part of the band, it just might not have worked.
It might not have worked. Because when they got Emma, as soon as she joined, they were like, yes.
This is it.
This is the missing piece.
So they live together in this house.
Yes.
Right, and they're writing songs, and they're rehearsing, and they have their own ideas about who they want to be, which is beginning to distance from the idea that the managers want them to be. Like, managers want to manufacture them more.
Early on, they were absolutely intent on making this rival girl band to rival the boy bands.
Yeah.
They were intent on making the design of them, like 5 exactly the same girls. And it was them who said, that isn't going to work. In their first showcase, they put them in the same T-shirt, but they'll customise their T-shirt. They went, this isn't for us. We need to be ourselves. We need to be authentic. Although they look manufactured, they are actually being themselves.
It's like, for example, if we want to talk about Sporty Spice, the original managers, there's no way they would have let one of the girls stand there in a Liverpool football top.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
And they said when Emma first turned up, the first day she came in a little 60s dress. Basically, she came exactly looking like Baby Spice. So they were with these blokes for 2 years. When they left them, eventually, why?
They were recording demos and stuff. The Spice Girls weren't frustrated because they weren't being paid attention to or anything. They were just frustrated because they were being moved in a slightly different direction to what they wanted. Anyway, the 5 girls kind of realised that it just wasn't going to happen the way they wanted it to happen with this management team. So they kind of make this audacious moonlight flit, but they also realise that the record producers and songwriters they've been working with have all the master tapes to the stuff they've been working on. So I think Jerry drives to one of their houses and the other girls distract him, and she goes in and nicks the tapes, puts them in her handbag.
They did quite a lot of that sort of Scooby-Doo, she calls it. Scooby-Doo behaviour.
I mean, they really were a team.
Yeah, they had a lot of courage.
Yeah, they really did. So anyway, I think that's a first example of their girl power. Where they're sticking it to the men already.
Yeah, I know. And then they got to that 19 management, Simon Fuller. And they went in there, they were like, she said they just did this all the time. They just had this ridiculous confidence. And they pressed play on the tape, jumped on his desk. She did a backflip across a boardroom table, which had all stuff on it. And they just won them over with their energy. It's not just, it's like you say, that if you just play the song in our price, it's going to sound awful. When you put it together with the package of them, it has to be them with it, their characters and their energy and enthusiasm.
Was going back to that saying that I hated the song, and then I saw the photo of them and I just thought, oh, come on. Actually, until you start seeing them on TV and being interviewed, and they're just this uncontrollable chaos.
Yeah.
I think, thank God.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Pop,
breath of fresh
we
air.
had Take That and E17. They were just so boring, really. And then all of a sudden it was almost like punk again. Because there were these 5 uncontrollable forces of nature who they all talked over each other. They kind of didn't care.
Actually, the Beatles, when you see them interviewed, they were so funny and anarchic. You know, they never answered questions properly. That's what you need. You need the characters with the music.
Yeah. So Simon Fuller takes them on, and very quickly there's a buzz about them. So the record companies all want them, and they sign to Virgin, and then they go into that development period where they're hooked up with songwriters and producers, and they start recording demos and stuff. And then the year before they break, I think they break in the summer of '96, in February, they get invited to the Brit Awards as guests of the record company. So it's a kind of
they're gonnabes, it says. They're not wannabes, they're gonnabes.
Yes, and they're sat at the table with like Lenny Kravitz and Vanessa Paradis. And in fact, I think it's somebody like Take That who say to themselves, "Oh, you're the Spice Girls." So they know in the industry
they did know. Yeah.
there is a buzz about them. But although none of us have any inkling that they even exist. So they're all living together and working together and having fun together. But this night of the Brit Awards, while they're still unknown, this is the first time they have a proper argument.
Yeah, it's really nasty. Mel C says she was drunk. They were all drunk because they were having a brilliant time. And she's, at this point, full of confidence and happiness. She's been happy, basically, since she left Liverpool. She's excited about everything. As they're going home, she took her hair out of the ponytail. And they were like, you can't do that. We might get photographed. She's like, what? And they're like, no, we all agree you shouldn't take your hair down. And she said to someone, who did she say it to? Victoria. She said, fuck off. She said it was like a throwaway under her breath.
Of course, yeah.
They're drunk. It's just nothing. They've been living together. You talk like that all the time.
Yeah.
And the next morning she woke up and they all come into her room and they're like, this is really serious. You cannot talk to Victoria like that. We're a band. We're going to go to the management and put in an official complaint. No. We all agree that your behaviour's really out of order. We need to rein you in. She's like, are you joking? And she's like, they're not joking. And then she basically collapsed mentally. She suddenly thought, oh my God, they could throw me out of the band. The other three got evicted. I could go. This isn't safe yet.
Yeah, because they're not even known
yet.
She could easily be replaced.
Turned against her.
I hated reading this.
Yeah, it was horrible. And then Simon Fuller did phone and have a really serious word with her. She crumbled. It's definitely the turning point.
It really put her on her back foot.
Yeah.
To the point where she almost became a mouse within the band.
She said she learned to get smaller. She actually tried to be smaller and she didn't speak up.
Do you know, I hate this so much because we know the Spice Girls fell out a couple of years later. Jerry left. We know there were problems. I hate that there were problems right before we even knew who they were.
I have to say, I didn't think there'd be anything in this book I didn't know, but I didn't know she suffered like this.
Yeah.
And she said that that's the point where that girl who stuck up for herself in the playground disappeared. She never found her again. In fact, she says she only really got herself together a couple of years ago.
Gosh, I guess, you know, she's on the way to achieving her dream and she doesn't want to do anything to jeopardise that. The stakes are really high.
They are really high, but it's like from that point on, she can't enjoy it.
And also, it's just that weird group dynamic thing. That it's a form of bullying, really, that the other four ganged up on her after that night.
I know.
And saying you're out of order. It's just creating a pecking order.
It's mostly Mel B and Jerry, I think. Yeah,
because they did it on behalf of Victoria. That's classic bullying. And it's not about me, it's about her.
Yeah. And those two were the leaders of the gang, without any doubt.
Yeah.
It's amazing, actually, how little Emma is mentioned in this whole book. The others get more of a mention because they're the bullies a bit. Victoria's got David Beckham. Emma's kind of mentioned a lot.
No, what the one thing that Mel C says is that it's more about the other three, and Melanie C and Emma just went along with everything.
Yeah.
Even when they're ditching managers and stuff. The other three, Mel B and Jerry, are making the decisions. Victoria's going along with it. Emma and Melanie C are just doing whatever because they want the easy life.
Yeah. And I mean, you can read between the lines. They were great friends because she moved to Finchley to be near Emma, and Emma's family were all up there, and their mums were always friends and all that. But they
eventually recorded "I Know Him So Well" together.
Yes.
What a truer mark
of
friendship.
They switched hair colours with the originals. Elaine Page and Bob Dixon with the blonde and brown. They switched.
Do you think, we've just read Judi Dench, do you think if Judi Dench didn't hurt her leg and get out of Cats, I Know Him So Well would have been Barbara Dixon and Judi Dench?
That is weird. I don't, but it's an interesting thought.
So anyway, differences aside, the Spice Girls are really on their way now. They're getting a lot of investment from the record company. But interestingly, the record company do not want to release Wannabe as the first single. They want to release one of the album tracks, which never became a single. They're like the laid-back R&B songs. Because I think bands like Eternal, R&B was big in the mid-90s. So they wanted to kind of present the Spice Girls as kind of an R&B group, which would have been a mistake, I think.
I mean, it's amazing how we, even just at the beginning, said they were a manufactured band, because we're so programmed to believe that. It's amazing how much it was them. They wrote the songs. They wrote them about friendship over,
men.
You know, what do you call it? Hoes over bros.
Yeah.
But, you know, they really were writing their own songs about their experiences and taking control and friendship and how important the other girls were and all that. But you probably didn't even believe at the time they wrote the songs.
It's funny that a lot of people said, oh, the Spice Girls didn't write those songs. I mean, that's misogyny anyway. And then you kind of think, oh, what, you think that 5 girls couldn't come up with I really, really, really want to zig a zig? It's just they're not writing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Exactly. It's not Shakespeare, is it?
I also find it really interesting that they are a new band who hasn't launched yet. And they got their voices heard against Virgin Records, their already established management company, and they said, no, Wannabe is going to be the first.
That's exactly
single.
Right. And they actually went and checked their contracts, and it did say they had creative control. So they actually were that strong. I think Jerry and Mel B definitely the leader, but Jerry was so hot on all this stuff. She was so determined and powerful. They definitely needed Jerry.
So Wannabe did become the first single.
But then there's another thing. They made the video to launch with it, which is filmed in King's Cross, the hotel. I didn't know that hotel was derelict at the time. Because now it is so posh.
Oh, it's a 6-star hotel.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on that staircase and I've got pictures. I've taken my nieces up the staircase. We've all got photos. It's brilliant. Even my bruv did a sporty spice kick. I've got it on camera. I mean, it's great. If anyone wants to go, it's that hotel in King's Cross, in Pancras Hotel. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's such a buzz because that's how great that video was. I mean, they go in that building and they go up the staircase and it's so exciting. They said they wanted it to seem like they did it in one take. They actually did it in 2, but that's still amazing. Yeah. Because it really flows, there's backflips, there's all sorts going on. There's all these characters. Uncle Malcolm, remember he's in it with the tray. And the company, Virgin, when they saw it, they said it's too raw, it's too scrappy. We need something more polished. And they went, absolutely not. They said, no, you've got to refilm this. We're doing this all again. They went, no, that captures our spirit, our vibe. We want it raw. That's who we are. And they fought on that as well. Yeah. So, I mean, they really did create themselves. Yeah. More than we ever think.
Yeah. And do you remember the Box TV music video channel where you could phone up and request pop videos? It was the most requested pop video, which is insane for an unknown girl band. Yeah. It took off very, very quickly. Yeah.
They did explode with that, didn't they?
As we know, Wannabe was probably one of the most successful debut singles of all time. Yeah. I was really pleased that Melanie C mentioned Shampoo in this book. Do you remember them?
Yes.
So they were a pop duo who were out about a year before the Spice Girls. They had their first album, We're in Trouble.
Yeah.
And they were amazing.
Really
just
fun
like
again.
punk pop. Yeah. They brought out a song called Girl Power.
Oh, yeah, they did.
About 2 weeks before Wannabe. So when the Spice Girls were out doing promotion, Jerry started saying Girl Power. Shampoo had this song and it went in at like number 30. It's an amazing track, by the way. But they kind of just completely usurped Shampoo's second album by commandeering their catchphrase. Yeah. And they took Girl Power, they brought it to the masses. In a way, Shampoo just must have felt so mugged at that point.
I wonder if they got extra sales because of it, though.
No, it happened the other way, because people were coming into our price asking for Girl Power, and people that give them the Spice Girls song. Oh. But anyway, Shampoo cleaned up in Japan.
Is there any space for... No, there's space for more than one. Oh, good, I'm glad. Yeah. Shampoo cleaned up. Anyway, they exploded. It was a big deal.
I have a friend who worked on the early campaign of the Spice Girls. Now, with any major label, if they have a new pop act, they invest a certain amount of money and they know they will do quite well. Yeah. You can kind of predict it to a certain extent. Yeah. So they knew that the Spice Girls would shift 20,000 in France, 40,000 in Germany, 70,000 in Italy. They kind of know that. It's a given. If you spend a certain amount of money on a band, you'll shift a certain amount of... What they didn't realise was how the Spice Girls took off at that rate. That, like, literally nobody on that team even dreamed that the Spice Girls would turn out to be the Spice Girls.
Why would you know that?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to predict that kind of success.
People at the right time with the right everything that people just needed.
And they were a girl band as well. Yeah. Who was the last big girl band we would have had at that point? Bananarama, maybe?
Probably. I think she mentions Banana. I think
Eternal.
She mentions them. Eternal. They loved Eternal, but they were saying, well, we love Eternal, we love Bananarama. Yeah. I think that's literally...
So girl bands had been successful, which is why I think the predictions for the Spice Girls were successful, but modest success. Yeah. Like nobody could ever have dreamed that they would go on to be the biggest cultural phenomenon.
Yes, right. Yeah, kind of shaped our view of the 90s.
Yeah, and beyond.
Yeah.
So we all know the Spice Girls were the biggest pop band of the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, what songs followed?
Say You'll Be There.
Fantastic.
Oh, no, she says in the book that they fell out about that. And she doesn't name the person, but she said when they all watched the video, which was shot on the Mojave Desert, when they all sat down and watched it for the first time, they said one certain member was featured so much more than the others.
Yes, and I did mean to watch and have a look. It's probably Jerry.
I took that it was Jerry, although she doesn't name her. Oh, another thing we should say that they were very certain of when they were created, the management wanted them to have a lead singer. And they said, no, we're all in it together. Yeah. So I can imagine how, having made that decision collectively, if all of a sudden one of them is being featured more in the videos.
Yeah. They should have the power to have that recut, shouldn't they, really?
Maybe they did, actually.
Re-edited.
I can't remember.
Don't know.
Yeah. So Wannabe's number one, Say You'll Be There is number one, Two Becomes One is number one. They're moving so quickly in other territories that by the time Wannabe, their first single, is number one, when they come to do Top of the Pops, they're actually in Japan.
Yeah.
So they have to beam in live from Japan when they're number one.
And they were gutted because it was their life's ambition to be on Top of the Pops.
I think Wannabe stays number one for like 6 weeks.
For long enough that they
3 weeks that they can come and be in the studio.
Yeah.
So Mel C is like, it takes off like a rocket. We literally don't have time to think. The first time they realise how massive they are is when they're asked to turn on the Christmas lights.
Yeah, which is way later.
And they bring London to a standstill.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. They said Victoria had been every year to watch the Christmas lights with her family.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a massive deal. And they get ready in their hotel along the way or whatever and come out, get into a car and get driven and and they're like, oh my God, everyone's here to see us. As far as the eye can see, all up Oxford Street, one way or the other. I remember it on the news.
Yeah.
It was absolutely epic. I think basically 10 times more than normal amount of people come to see the lights turn on.
It's interesting how pop stars work so hard. Do you remember the Mariah Carey book? She had like 2 number one albums, but she didn't quite realise until she went to another city to film a television special. And she said, what are all these police here for? What are the quarters? What happened here? Was there a terrorist attack? And they're like, no, they're here for you.
Yeah.
Because this many people are
because up to then they're getting transported from an interview to a magazine interview to a TV show and you're not actually meeting any fans. You have no idea. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
If she wasn't feeling really put upon, part of her is loving everything that's happening alongside feeling insecure and vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's a real dual thing happening.
Yeah, and she's really keeping herself to herself. It's so weird. They all had so much energy that you take that at face value. You don't even consider that one of them might be unhappy.
No. But anyway, the press annihilates her really early on. She's sporty, I really remember, because we absolutely lived through all of this, they all said she was gay.
Yeah.
She does mention it, but it was more that than anything else, I remember. But, it's such a stereotype. You can be sporty if you want. And she does address this much later in the book. She's like, when she started writing this book and looks back and starts to be able to claim herself and says, I am sporty, though. I am this, I am that. I do all this stuff, but I'm a woman. You don't have to fit into this bloody stereotype.
I think
if you don't, you're gay. As a woman, you don't have to be girly.
Born in 1974, growing up in a city in a working class environment, those male-female stereotypes are really indoctrinated in you.
Yeah. And she just didn't conform to that girly one.
Yeah.
And so she got hounded for it. It was partly that. And they all got slammed for their weight. The stuff you read about. Oh, yeah. It's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, they went on an interview where they actually got scales out and weighed them all. They were stick thin, but they were getting called fat. Mm-hmm. And it was making all of them, I think, probably, if you read the other fours, you probably find they all had weight
eating
problems.
Disorders. Well, Jerry famously did.
Jerry came out and really talked about it.
You can't tell me that Victoria Beckham doesn't.
You cannot tell me that.
And so let's just say that Emma MLB did too.
I suspect they did.
Yeah.
They were stick thin and all being called fat and being weighed on national television. It's appalling how they were talked about. And I was reading it going, God, I can't believe we've lived through those times. And I'm like, hang on, this week Billie Eilish is being called fat.
Yeah.
This week, in 2023, it hasn't changed that much.
Oh, God, I almost think we're regressing at some point. Yeah.
So, her eating disorders kicked in already, because the second thing, the night after the Brit Awards was the first, and the second was Simon Fuller telling her she was fat.
Yeah, right.
Those are the two things So your faith in the girls, your best friends, has collapsed, and your body image has been...
Oh, as well, those first managers, they had an investor was like this gangster guy who had a house with a swimming pool out in Essex or something. They all went there to chill out one day, and Melanie C gets out of the pool in her swimsuit, and the guy says to her, "Your legs are a bit chubby, you're going to have to lose that."
Unbelievable.
And she's not remotely...
That's muscle.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's sporty. She can do backflips.
At that time, she's like a 19-year-old
Oh,
dancer.
they were healthy. That's the sad part. They have to get anorexic and unhealthy to look acceptably good.
Just thinking of the Spice Girls now, thinking back to 1997, when you watched all of them, if I had to say which one is least likely to have any problems or trouble, Sporty Spice, because she just seems
100%.
so focused
Normal.
and fit and disciplined, and you kind of think she's on it, actually. She's got this sorted. Actually, all those things I just said about being disciplined, actually it's obsession.
It is obsession.
Yeah, and so you would look at that and think, oh, she's so in control of everything.
Yeah. But she's obsessed with being in control.
Yeah.
She talks about this so much.
Do you know what? I kind of, just in my ignorance, in a way, this book, I hated it because it's kind of like, I don't want to think about having a horrible time in the Spice Girls.
I know that Jerry had all of her own eating disorders. In fact, she talks about them because Jerry checked herself into a hospital at some point. All these years when she became anorexic, Melanie, Jerry was trying to talk to her.
I liked that, actually.
Yeah.
Jerry was really keeping an eye on her.
She was really trying to,
even though
but
Melanie
she
C
wouldn't
didn't
listen.
want it.
No.
Yeah,
it's good.
Because she'd been through it.
Yeah,
and she was a couple
and she
of years
could
older.
recognise it, even though she was in denial herself.
Yeah. So they've exploded in America. They're a truly global pop phenomenon at this moment in time. And they're taking every opportunity that comes at them. And at the same time, they're developing their live shows to go on a world tour. Yeah. And they're preparing for Spice World, the movie. Yeah. What really surprised me is that when they were recording their second album, they had to bring a mobile recording studio on the set of Spice World, the movie. And if they weren't in any scenes at that moment in time, they'd be taken to the mobile recording studio to lay their voice down on the track. They were simultaneously...
And trying to write it as well.
Yeah.
I know, they pushed them so hard. When they see a cash cow, they just milk it.
They do.
I mean, they milk it to death.
Yeah.
They don't feed it, that's the problem. They just milk it.
It just sounds like they didn't get much support either. They were exhausted.
Exhausted. And this is the case with so many bands, and they burn out. But she does say, this band only lasted 2 years.
Yeah.
And she talks near the end of the book. She has a really good speech that you almost need to write down and pin up on every record studio. Sometimes the people who seek fame are probably the least equipped to deal with it.
Yes.
There's something about the people that seek it, and there needs to be set up care, probably therapists, and they definitely need not pushing that hard. Their scheduling needs to be better. They need breaks. They're literally making a fortune and killing these people. Yeah. And they do it over and over again, and they've done it since Elvis, they've done it. Yeah. But I love that she really says what needs to be done and why this is happening in a really non-emotional but really clear way. Like, this shouldn't be allowed to happen. Listen, everybody, and this is what should be put into place.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant.
Sensible.
It's really sensible. Yeah. It's completely idealistic, and it will never happen.
It won't
there
happen.
are millions of pounds.
Millions. Oh my god, the amount they made
the
on merch.
It's insane.
One year they made something like...
I've got it here.
Oh, go on, go on.
So in 1997, their merchandising, bearing in mind they were on everything.
Everything.
£300 million. In 1998, that went up to £800 million. Just from all their merchandising deals.
She said they were getting a good lot of it, but they weren't getting anywhere near that much of it.
No, I thought about that.
Virgin and all that were cleaning up and still treating them like shit.
So there was...
That's just on merchandising.
Albums, the tickets, they did that massive world tour.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and advertising deals, they would have got loads. So they were, it's nuts the amount of money they generated. And I think it's that thing... The big Svengali managers say, give those people more money than they've ever seen in their lives and they will not complain. Well, the Spice Girls at this point probably had a personal fortune at the end of it, like 20 million each.
Is that all? They should have hundreds of millions each.
They should have hundreds of millions each, because the people that manage them probably do.
And actually, this is another really interesting aspect of the book. She's really interesting, isn't she? She says how awkward it is when you first get money, when you've never had it and your family don't have it. She said, all of these Spice Girls came from working class backgrounds, with slight exception of Victoria, who was more upper middle, nouveau riche. You know, her dad was an electrician or something who did well, that's all. But how awkward it is, because she said her mum phoned up once and said that her bloke had been taxi driving all day, and then somebody had run off and not paid the fare, and all he made all day was £5. And she's talking to her daughter who's got millions. Yeah. She just really talks about how awkward money can make you feel. You don't know how to spend it, you feel guilty, how it affects your relationships. I've never heard it just written down in such an intelligent way, just as plain speaking. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. But, you know, being on all of this merchandise and stuff, they're now beginning, the Spice Girls themselves are kind of feeling that the runaway train is out of control, and they're like, oh no, we literally have reached the point of oversaturation. Like, they wanted to stop being on everything. They found it quite naff in the end. They were on every tin in the supermarket.
Exactly. She was saying, I didn't get into this to be on a crisp packet. I remember eating a lot of Spice Girls Walker's crisps. Do you? I definitely did. I even kept them for a while. I think it'd be worth something one day, but then I ate them.
I bet they are.
No, I ate them. I can't keep crisps around.
So they were kind of realising they wanted to pull back a bit, but the management had different ideas. And that's when the rumblings were beginning between them. I think it was like Jerry and Mel B again who started talking between themselves. Is Simon Fuller such a great manager? Do we want him taking us forward? And I think Victoria got on board, and then so they had a meeting, and again Mel C and Emma just go along with it. But anyway, long story short.
But they really did agree though as well.
So I remember when this happened, major.
I do too. Big news. It was absolutely front page main story news.
They're the biggest thing in the whole world, and they sacked their manager.
Yeah, and they had the whole world tour lined up and everything.
Oh, again.
Oh, it was Scooby-Doo.
When they're in rehearsals for tour and they're all conspiring between each other that we're going to sack the manager, Jerry again goes to the person.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
The woman who has the filer fax probably full of all the numbers. Yeah, and they go and distract her.
Jerry goes into the office, puts a file of fax in her handbag.
Oh, that's right. They have to do a
They're called up
gig
on stage to do a rehearsal, and they're like, Jerry, leave your bag. And she's like, no, I'm keeping my bag with me
down.
because
she's
got
like,
the golden
bag.
goose.
Yeah.
And then I think somehow she disappears to the toilet, copies down all of the numbers they're going to need, and then replaces the file of fax back into the office.
Yeah.
And then they just do the runner.
Yeah.
Call their lawyer and say, tell Simon he's sacked.
Yeah.
And then that's it. They never go back.
Yeah.
But because all of their team is working for Simon Fuller, they don't get to take any more. Did they take the makeup and hair people? I can't remember. But basically everybody who worked for them
has to go that day.
Was Simon Fuller's employees.
Yeah.
Do you know what? The press turned on them a bit. I remember, because it's kind of like, who do the Spice Girls think they are, sacking their manager? They've become too big for their boots, kind of thing.
It's nuts, as she does say. They were all absolutely, utterly exhausted. They just weren't in a good place.
That much success comes at a price.
Oh, massively.
Let's talk about Robbie Williams. So American listeners might not know, but Robbie Williams is kind of arguably one of the biggest male singers to come out of Britain.
He's big in America, isn't he?
No, his success never really translated over there.
Angels.
Yeah, so he's a massive pop star. Everybody loves him. And Melanie C and Robbie Williams, well, she talks about having his poster on her wall.
Well, yeah, because he was in Take That, so he's the opposite to Spice Girls, the male equivalent.
Yeah. And they bump into each other, then eventually they develop a relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like it went on for about a year, and there was a lot of phone calls, and he really understood what she was going through and how lonely she would be and her mental struggles. He kind of really got it, and he was really there for her.
And he would surprise her sometimes at sound checks and stuff, and then she'd just see him sat on the front row, and it would really lift her because she was so miserable in the band. And
she was so lonely. Yeah. She does talk about that everyone else in the band had various different relationships, whether they were going wrong or right. They always had things going on. She just literally almost had no relationships at all. And so somebody finally was paying attention. It meant a huge amount.
Yeah, and she was well into it, and it meant a lot to her, and unfortunately it didn't mean as much to him.
Yeah, she said he led her on for about a year and then dropped her like a hot brick.
She's quite pragmatic about it.
She says it really hurt her.
Yeah, but she says that she understands that he wasn't in a good place too.
Yeah,
stuff. But
she's let him off the hook, but she says it really hurt her.
She let him off the hook because it's 20 years later. Yeah. But at that moment in time, she was devastated. Yeah. Poor woman. So actually the good things that she got out of that, feeling wanted, finally having someone, actually probably wasn't worth the
Oh no, I'm sure it
wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, unfortunately, Robbie Williams claims to have slept with all but one Spice Girl.
No.
So, I mean, that can't be very nice for Melanie C, who actually had the relationship with him.
Yeah.
To know that 3 of your other bandmates actually ended up sleeping with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's breaking girl code.
Oh, yeah.
3 of your friends sleeping with your boyfriend.
But maybe you made them all think they were the one.
She's the
in
one.
that moment. A bit sad.
And then, rather unfortunately, she started going out with Jay from Five.
Yeah, I don't know him, you know.
He's an
I vaguely
arsehole.
remember that.
First-hand experience.
Wow.
Because I've worked backstage on a lot of these pop gigs and
Yeah.
stuff. Five were a horrible, but because one of them was a really nice lad and he was bullied by the others, and I could see it happening in real time. Jay was just a horrible, cocky dickhead.
Oh, what a shame she fell for that.
Yeah.
She was desperate. She was so lonely.
Yeah.
Poor woman. Oh, well.
Anyway, Jerry left.
Yeah, Jerry left. Jerry left.
We all know.
We
Jerry
all know
left,
that.
right? We don't need to spend
talk
any
about
time.
that. She just buggered off and that was it.
Are you surprised that she was the first one to go?
No, because then she came out with that look at me and it was like, well, you've kind of said it. I want everyone to look at me. I don't want to be in the game. There's more to it than that, but anyway, they carried on without her. But then Melanie C met Bryan Adams and they did this song, Baby When You're Gone. It was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, it's a brilliant song.
It's cracking.
Yeah, I would say it's possibly the best non-Spice Girl song.
Yeah. They had a bit of a hiatus so they could all go off and do their solo projects. So she wrote the album Northern Star. The songs just poured out of her. And it was a great album and it was a massive success, which she's been trying to replicate ever since and never doing. But also it was really good that you go through those songs and they're like, oh, this is a really good album.
Yeah,
And Turn to You, cracking song.
Yeah, it was very accomplished actually. I think she worked with the right people.
Yeah.
She went a bit more singer-songwritery. So she was still, whereas some of the others stayed very much as Spice Girls in their solo careers, actually Melanie C did make a bit of a departure. She matured a little bit with her album. It really worked.
And then she said she made the mistake of, in an interview, saying, well, since I've left the Spice Girls, and it was a slip of the tongue, because mentally, I guess she kind of had, but actually she hadn't, and the press picked up on it, and then they were mad at her, and it was kind of the beginning of the end.
Yeah, so they were a foursome at this point, and they did carry on without Jerry, and they did have, number 1 songs still. But again, I think the Spice Girls were almost going in a more R&B direction. Yeah. I didn't like Holler in that last album.
No.
Yeah.
It was amazing what a quick time it all happened.
Yeah.
It really was a sort of shooting star, wasn't it?
Oh, what I hated about the 4 of them really presented a united front after Jerry left. And you think, okay, it's almost making them stronger. What really surprised me, when they were recording that 3rd album, Forever, Melanie C would not be in the studio at the same time as the other girls.
Yes.
And she asked to go in and record her tracks separately.
Yes, and she explains why, and a big reason was because she was so ill, so anorexic and so mentally ill that she didn't want them to see her because she knew they'd see that she was trying to hide it.
Yeah.
She knew they'd see it. So it wasn't necessarily that she didn't want to see them, she didn't want them to see her.
Right.
So that made sense, but I'm not sure she maybe understood that at the time. She understands that now. Or maybe...
Gosh, she was so miserable.
She was really messed up.
Wasn't she?
I mean, she was diagnosed at this point as actually anorexic and depressed. She was in LA to do some of her solo stuff and she got herself a personal trainer who is the first person she confessed to having an eating disorder. Because she'd get up at 3 a.m, go and binge eat at that point, and she never got to throwing up, but it was all wrong. And then with the personal trainer's help, she got herself a chef who started to cook. She was like, I'm going to spend a bit of this spice money. Yeah. So she started getting healthy meals and she started to really repair herself. But when she was back with the Spice Girls, it all went to pot again. And so they were really dangerous for her to be around. But she said she just couldn't be the person to split up the Spice Girls because they would annihilate her.
Yeah.
But she said ultimately they've never split up. They do come back. They did the Olympics. They did an arena tour just before lockdown, didn't they?
Yeah.
Without Victoria, but the other 4 were back.
Of course, because Jerry goes back now.
Jerry's back. Jerry's been back for a while. I'd like to say this. I saw the concert the first time round. 2007 one at the O2 was Victoria as well. It was all 5 back.
All 5 of them.
Brilliant. It's just so much fun. Spice Up Your Life, by the way. Was that in the second album?
Oh, that was the second album, the lead single. Yeah.
Best tune ever.
They're going to go on forever, aren't they?
Yeah.
They'll keep reappearing in different forms and stuff. There's always a rumour that they're going to headline Glastonbury, right? And she says in this book they've actually never been asked.
Yeah. Oh, we have totally missed out that she had a kid. But she had a relationship that actually stuck with her and was nice, and they had a child. So that's good. I'm really happy for her that she's got a daughter, because I think she just needed something like that. Yeah. Relationship didn't last, but she's got a daughter that she loves. And
I think it lasted a few years, didn't
10 years.
Yeah. So it did last. Just not forever.
Yeah.
But do you know she had this kind of thing with Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Well, I thought they were just mates.
I know they were just mates, but he really, really was into her, and she just wasn't.
To go out with her,
and he wrote a song about her.
Yes, I didn't know that until I read. It's in Californication album.
Yeah, and the sad thing about it is that he just seemed to be so enamoured by her, and she loved hanging out with him. They seemed to have a really good relationship. Then at the millennium, because nothing was going on, she was horribly depressed and wanted to get away. That she took her whole family, because the Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing.
Yeah, in LA.
Yeah, they were playing in LA, and they got there, hotels and everything, went to go to the gig, and there wasn't any tickets for them. So her and her brother ended up spending the millennium sat with the homeless people drinking beer out of a paper bag.
Yeah, and you're a Spice Girl. She said, I'm a Spice Girl and this is my millennium. At least she had a brother. I'm so glad she did.
Yeah, she has a nice relationship with our Paul.
Yeah.
So really then, throughout her whole time of being a Spice Girl, that massive success, and her successful solo career, I mean, I was just so surprised to find out that she was really suffering from terrible mental episodes like panic attack, even agoraphobia at one point. She just wasn't leaving the house, which I kind of think is probably because she's really recognisable.
Yeah, exactly.
And she wouldn't want people to see her when she's really
exactly. Ill. Yeah.
But she has like massive depression, eating disorders.
Yeah.
I just, any of them, I thought she was the one that was the most sorted.
The press are bullying her. I mean, part of me goes, her routine was to wake up at 5, go to the gym, go to the newsagents, buy all the papers, read about herself. Can't you see you need to stop reading the papers? I want to say, just, why are you reading the papers every day? Just blank it
That's
out.
probably part of the cycle, though, isn't it? When you're depressed and stuff.
It was early on. That was when they were sharing a house. She was sharing a house with Mel B.
Oh, okay.
And then an interview I saw much later when she's got her head cropped off, she's saying, I've checked the papers and just to see who I'm supposed to be sleeping with. And it's so unhealthy.
Yeah. One of the biggest surprises in this is that now she's a solo artist. When she first left the Spice Girls and she did that album, she played Reading Festival and stuff. When she got the live band behind her, one of them was the Sex Pistols.
Yes.
I find that amazing. And he stayed with her for years playing in her band. And also, when she did cut her hair short and bleached it and first got her tattoos, and her music was rocky and punky, she really started acting up. And when I think about her, actually, she was very laddish, actually. And she was flicking her V's at the paps and stuff. She says in this book that's because she was hurting so bad. She wanted to show the world she was having a brilliant time and she didn't care about anything. That's right.
So the more I looked like I was having a good time, the more maybe I was, but I wasn't.
Oh, no. God, this...
But hey, she ends up, I mean, before this book is in anyway over, she ends up getting into musical theatre, which was her first thing. She was great in Blood Brothers. She was really, really good.
I heard that,
And she got nominated for an Olivier Award for it, which means she was officially very good in it. She did a good job.
Yeah.
And then she got Jesus Christ Superstar as Mary Magdalene. She's really got legitimised. Everyone had a career afterwards, but she got some jobs in exactly what made her feel legitimate. Now she's written this book and she says it was really good therapy. She did it in lockdown and it was really painful to go through some of the chapters, but she got through it. And it's a real self-analysing thing, isn't it, obviously, to write an autobiography.
Yeah, I really loved it. She took it very seriously. It's almost a tribute to everybody that she loved in her life as well. Quite often in the book she's saying, and this is my friend's mum who was really great. I really love having her in my life.
It really is. She talks about everybody and gives them their moment.
I think she is possibly one of the nicest people we've read so far.
Yeah, she does.
And she's very down to earth.
Totally
and do you know what? It was very difficult for her at various times being a Spice Girl and stuff. But I think the biggest reward of being a Spice Girl is that it's over by the time you're like 26, 27. Sorry, she's always going to be a Spice Girl. What I mean is that first run of success. Then, at the age of like 26, 27, you can actually do what you want to do for the rest of your life. If you want to be in musical theatre, if you want to record lots of albums and be a singer-songwriter, you can just do that. Now, that's an amazing reward, actually, for 2 years of hell.
It is, isn't it? She does say a lot of the time it's really amazing being a Spice Girl, because you phone somebody up and say, do you want to be on my album? They'll say yes because you're a Spice Girl.
Oh, and actually something else we haven't talked about. Okay, so she had her Northern Star, her first album, which sold millions worldwide. Actually, she's continued to make albums which haven't sold as well. I kind of get, once she got over the fact, I think it was record company pressure that made her want to sell millions more. But she was dropped by Virgin Records,
who made hundreds of millions from her. Yeah. And she was dropped at the first hurdle. That's to quote her.
When she stopped selling, they dropped her.
Assholes.
They dropped her. Actually,
I think they supported her and promoted her, so her second album would have done, or third album would have done better. It's bullshit, isn't it? Really crap.
But I think she's at the stage now where she doesn't care about selling 1 million records anymore, but she gets to be a singer-songwriter, she gets to make music, and she gets to release it.
And she's worked really closely with Sink the Pink. They travelled the world doing Pride, sort of LGBTQ plus shows with drag queens, and she's fronting it, and she said with all those drag queens, she really learned to embrace who she is through talking to them. Like, finally, and this is in the last few years, just by their stories of them just being comfortable with who they are, she finally can be comfortable with who she is. Because she doesn't conform to the female gender stereotype. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what the press is saying, she still might have had a struggle if she wasn't even in the press with all of that. Because it's hard if you're not normal, I quote with air quotes.
Yes.
And she isn't normal, but she is who she is, and she's learned to be proud of that.
Actually, I tell you something, this is just coming to me now. I think the legacy of Sporty Spice, there was Spice Girl. She was very much presented to the world as a girl. Yeah. Being the one who didn't really fit into being ultra feminine and stuff. Yeah. Probably helped a multitude of young women.
I will have, definitely.
And it was so important then that she was part of the Spice Girls gang. Yeah. That you could be a bit less feminine. You could wear a football top. Yeah. I hope she realises that, actually, the way that she had a terrible time, but going through that terrible time, she's made it possible and probably saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of young girls who didn't conform to the stereotypical view of being a girl or woman. She would have saved a lot of them going through the same things.
She really would have.
Oh, I really love Melanie C.
I do too.
Yeah.
And now I'm feeling like I want to see what she does next, and I'll be there.
So you'll be there?
I just did.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast, and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. We're new to this, and you could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us, or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.